I remember the day I met Ethan like it was yesterday. It was at one of those high society parties where everyone pretends to care about the hors d'oeuvres, but really just shows up for the free booze and gossip. I was there, standing awkwardly by the buffet, not touching a thing. That's me, Laura, the girl who's deadly allergic to peanuts. It's a pain, but you get used to the drill. Don't eat anything you didn't make yourself. Ethan was hard to miss, the life of the party, cracking jokes and charming everyone within a 10-foot radius. I was trying my best to blend into the wallpaper when he sauntered over, plate in hand, and raised an eyebrow at my empty hands. "Hey, I'm Ethan. You're not eating anything." "What's up with that?" he asked, stuffing a mini quiche into his mouth. I shrugged, feeling a bit self-conscious. "I'm Laura. It's nothing exciting, just a peanut allergy. Makes these kind of things a bit of a minefield." He chuckled. "Peanut allergy, huh? So, if I wanted to keep you away, I'd just have to throw Snickers bars at you?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Exactly, but please don't. I prefer my parties anaphylaxis-free." "Deal." He grinned. "But seriously, that sucks. Can't be easy navigating food minefields at parties." "It's not the best, but you get used to it. Just gotta keep an eye out and ask a lot of questions." Ethan nodded, looking genuinely interested, which was a nice change. "Sounds like a full-time job." "Hey, if you ever need a taste tester or food checker, I'm your guy. No peanuts will get past me." The conversation flowed effortlessly from there. Ethan was easy to talk to, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel so out of place. We talked about everything and nothing, work, music, the ridiculousness of adulting. It felt like we'd known each other for years. As the evening wound down, Ethan said, "I had a great time tonight, Laura. I mean, not just the party, but talking to you. You're different, you know? In a good way." I felt my cheeks warm up. "Thanks, Ethan. I had a great time too. It's not often I meet someone who doesn't run away screaming after the whole 'I could die from peanuts' spiel." He laughed. "Well, I'm not most people. Plus, I like a little danger. Add spice to life, right?" I rolled my eyes, but couldn't hide my smile. "Sure, if by spice you mean the constant threat of anaphylactic shock." "Exactly, keeps things interesting. Listen, I'd really like to see you again. Maybe in a less life-threatening setting?" I hesitated for a split second. Ethan was great, but inviting someone into the allergy-laden mess that was my life? That was a big step. But looking into his earnest, slightly mischievous eyes, I felt a pull I couldn't ignore. "Yeah, I'd like that," I said, surprising myself. "Great. It's a date then. I'll text you. And I promise, no peanut surprises." As he walked away, I couldn't help but feel like maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something special. Little did I know how right, and how wrong, I would be. Ethan and I hit it off like fireworks on the 4th of July. It was one of those romances you hear about but never really believe could happen. I was cautious at first, but with Ethan, it felt like throwing caution to the wind wasn't just okay, it was the only way to go. We started seeing each other nonstop. Our dates weren't your typical dinner and a movie deal. No, Ethan was all about the experience. We'd find ourselves at a hole-in-the-wall jazz club one night and playing mini-golf like a couple of kids the next. He had a way of making the mundane feel magical. One breezy evening, we were walking along the river, the city lights reflecting like stars on the water. Ethan stopped and looked at me, his eyes serious. "Laura, I gotta tell you something. I'm not into playing games or beating around the bush. I'm crazy about you. It's like you've got this realness about you. It's refreshing. And I want us, to be something more." His words hit me like a lightning bolt. I was feeling it too, the intensity, the connection, but hearing him say it out loud, it made it real. "Ethan, I feel the same way. I was scared, you know? But with you, it's different. It feels right." He grinned, that lopsided grin that made my heart do somersaults. Well, then. Guess that settles it. You and me, we're doing this. For real. And we did. It wasn't long before we were inseparable. Meeting his friends, meeting his family, it all happened in a blur. Ethan was a big deal at his company, head of his department, and he had this air about him like he could conquer the world if he wanted to. And me? I was just an accountant, living a quiet life until he stormed in like a hurricane. One night, over a quiet dinner at his place, Ethan brought up the future. It was a simple conversation, but it changed everything. Laura, you know I've got this job, this career. But it's not my whole world. You are. I've been thinking, what if you didn't have to work? What if you could just focus on, I don't know, starting a family or whatever you want? I can support us. The idea was crazy. Leave my job? Become a housewife? But the way he said it, like it was the most natural thing in the world, it made me consider it. Ethan, that's a big step. But, starting a family, it's something I've always wanted. You're sure about this? He took my hand, his gaze steady and sure. I've never been sure about anything. I want this life, our life, to be about us, not about work or stress. I want to make this happen, for you, for us. And just like that, I found myself saying yes. Yes to leaving my job, yes to this new life with Ethan, yes to a future that was both terrifying and exhilarating. After the wedding, life with Ethan was a mix of highs and lows. He never really cut ties with his circle of friends, and I found myself tagging along to their endless parties. At one of these gatherings, we bumped into this pretty girl, Natalie, who turned out to be the CEO's daughter of the company where Ethan worked. I noticed the way they interacted, all smiles and subtle touches. They even danced together, laughing and chatting like old pals. It rubbed me the wrong way, seeing them so cozy. A pang of jealousy hit me hard, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. But that was just the beginning. The real trouble started one ordinary morning in our kitchen, the kind of morning that's supposed to be full of simple joys and shared dreams. Ethan, I'm pregnant, I announced, my heart racing with a mix of nerves and excitement. He froze, his coffee cup halfway to his lips. The silence that followed was thick, heavy. Finally, he set the cup down and faced me, his expression unreadable. Laura, you sure about this? I mean, we talked family and all, but now? Is now good timing? His words felt like a slap. What do you mean, good timing? Ethan, this is our plan, remember? Our family starting? He sighed, a sound that carried weight, weariness. I know it is. But plans and reality, they ain't always buddies. We gotta think this through, Laura. We ain't ready, not really. A lump formed in my throat. Not ready? But you said, you wanted this, to take care of us. What's changed? He avoided my gaze, shifting uncomfortably. Things change, Laura. Just being real here. Maybe, we need to consider all our options. Before we jump into anything. Options? Like not having this baby? I could hardly believe the words coming out of my mouth. He didn't meet my eyes. Maybe. I don't know. Let's just think on it, okay? After that, everything started to unravel. Ethan pulled away, shutting me out. Our home felt more like a war zone than a haven. Minor spats turned into major blowouts, our words cutting deep. One night, Ethan stumbled in late, the weight of the world seemingly on his shoulders. Another late night? I tried to keep it cool, neutral. Yeah, work, he grumbled, not bothering to shed his coat. Something you wouldn't get. That stung. Wouldn't get? What's that supposed to mean, Ethan? He gave a dismissive shrug. Means I'm out there working my butt off while you're here playing housewife. It's different, Laura. You just don't see it. My face heated up with anger. Playing housewife? That's what you think I'm doing? Carrying our kid, keeping our home, that's just a game to you? He didn't reply, just poured himself a drink and stared into nothing, 1,000 miles away. It was like living with a ghost. The man I married, the one who promised to stand by me, had vanished, leaving this cold, distant shell in his place. The tension between Ethan and me was thick enough to cut with a knife, but life didn't stop for our troubles. We kept up appearances, attending parties like everything was normal. One of those evenings sticks in my mind like a thorn. We were at another one of Ethan's high-flying gatherings. The room was buzzing with chatter, laughter, and clinking glasses. I was picking at my food, careful as ever, when Natalie, the CEO's daughter, breezed in like she owned the place. The air shifted as she made her way through the crowd, and I felt Ethan tense up beside me. "Hey, Ethan, Laura," Natalie greeted us, her voice smooth as silk. "Glad you could make it." Ethan managed a tight smile. "Wouldn't miss it, Natalie. You know that." I nodded, trying to keep my face neutral. "Nice to see you, Natalie." She turned her gaze on me, sharp and calculating. "Laura, I heard about your little food issue. Must be tough, always watching what you eat." I stiffened, not liking the way she said food issue. "It's an allergy, Natalie. And yeah, it's a bit of a hassle." She laughed, a sound that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, I bet. But hey, at least it keeps you slim, right? Every cloud and all that." I forced a smile, feeling Ethan's eyes on me. "Sure, something like that." The evening dragged on. Ethan was pulled away by some colleagues, leaving me with Natalie. She was all smiles and niceties, but there was something off about her. She kept probing, asking about my allergy, how I manage, what would happen if I ate peanuts. I answered her questions, but with each word, I felt more exposed, like she was filing away my answers for something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Then, out of the blue, she dropped a bombshell. "So, Laura, I've been meaning to ask. How are things with Ethan? You two seem, I don't know, a bit off lately. Trouble in paradise?" I was taken aback. This was none of her business. "Ethan and I are fine, Natalie. Every couple has their ups and downs." She nodded, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. Of course. Just making conversation. You know how these parties get, all small talk and gossip." I didn't like the way she said gossip. It felt like a warning, a signal that my and Ethan's problems might be more public than I thought. The night ended with a sour taste in my mouth. As we drove home, Ethan was quiet, lost in thought. I wanted to ask him about Natalie, about what's going on with us, but the words wouldn't come. It was like we were strangers, sharing a space but nothing else. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized how isolated I felt. It wasn't just Ethan's distance, it was the feeling that there were eyes on us, whispers behind our backs. The gathering hadn't just been disturbing because of Natalie's probing questions. It was a wake-up call, a realization that our private life might not be so private after all. The 5th month of my pregnancy was a roller coaster. Sleepless nights, restless days. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the bombshell that was about to drop. It was one of those sleepless nights. Tossing and turning, the baby bump making it impossible to get comfortable. I gave up on sleep and shuffled to the kitchen for some water, the house silent except for the creaks and groans of the old floorboards. But then, a voice drifted from the living room. Ethan's voice, hushed but intense. I froze, my heart thumping in my chest. This wasn't just any late-night call, this was something else. "I love you, too," Ethan's voice floated through the darkness, coated in sweetness that made my stomach churn. "Don't worry, she's out. Sleeps like a log these days. We can talk." My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't happening. But it was, and it got worse. A woman's voice responded, clear and unmistakable. Natalie's voice. "Remember, Ethan, it has to look like an accident. The peanut thing. Just swap her morning pasta with the one we bought. Ethan's reply was a punch to the gut. I know. It'll be soon. Can't stand another day with her. And that kid? We'll be free soon, Nat. I stood there, my whole world crumbling. This wasn't a nightmare, it was real. My husband, plotting with his mistress to kill me, to make it look like an accident. A cold fear gripped me, but I wouldn't let it paralyze me. Silently, I retreated to the bedroom, my mind a whirlwind of fear and fury. I wasn't going to play the victim in this twisted game. I needed evidence, something concrete to nail him and that viper, Natalie. As soon as Ethan left the next morning, I sprang into action. Tore through his stuff like a woman on a mission. And there it was, hiding in plain sight, the jar of sweet pasta, laced with peanuts, a death sentence for the unsuspecting. But I wasn't unsuspecting. Not anymore. I swapped that jar for a twin, identical in every way but one. This one was safe, filled with an imitation flavor that wouldn't hurt a fly. Let him think he had the upper hand. Let him believe his plan was foolproof. The stage was set, the players in place. Ethan's twisted plot was about to unravel, and I was the one pulling the strings. As I lay in bed that night, the recording device safely hidden, I knew the morning would bring the final act of this dark drama. The morning light crept through the curtains, casting a calm over the kitchen that was in stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. Ethan was up early, humming some tune, as he busied himself with making breakfast. The smell of toasted bread filled the air, but my stomach churned with nerves, not hunger. Here you go, Laura. Made your favorite pasta sandwiches, he said, pushing the plate towards me, his eyes glued to my face, waiting for the show to start. I took a bite, locking eyes with him, knowing this was it. Ethan, I can't breathe. I choked out, clutching my throat, my heart racing not from fear, but from the adrenaline of the trap I'd set. His reaction was bone-chilling. Laughter, cold and cruel, spilled out of him. Can't breathe? Well, that's the point, Laura. Thought you'd have figured it out by now. It's peanut butter, darling. Your ticket out of my life. I kept up the act, my eyes wide with feigned panic. Why, Ethan? Why are you doing this? He leaned in, a twisted smile on his lips. Why? Because you're in the way, Laura. You and the kid. I've got plans with Natalie, big plans. And I don't need a divorce dragging me down, slicing my fortune in two, or a kid eating into my cash. This way, it's cleaner, simpler. His words hit like a slap, but I was ready. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. You're sick, Ethan. You won't get away with this. He laughed, that same cold sound, and shrugged on his coat. I already have, Laura. By the time anyone figures it out, I'll be long gone, an alibi solid as a rock. Goodbye, Laura. The door clicked shut behind him, and I sprang into action. I stopped the act, my breathing normal, my mind razor sharp. The recording device had captured every word, every confession. I dialed the police, my voice steady. I'd like to report an attempted murder. My husband, he's tried to poison me because of my allergy. The operator's voice was calm, professional. Ma'am, are you safe now? Can you tell me your location? Yes, I'm safe, he's left for work. But I have proof, a recording of his plan, of him admitting it, and the peanut paste he used. Stay where you are, we're sending officers right away. Keep the recording safe, it's crucial evidence. As I hung up, the reality of what I'd done, what I'd escaped, washed over me. I'd walked through the fire, faced down the man I once loved, and come out the other side. It was over for Ethan, his web of lies unraveled by his own arrogance. And as the police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer with every heartbeat, I knew this was just the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter, a fresh start for me and my child, built on truth, courage, and a will of iron. The game was over, and I, not Ethan, was the one left standing. The courtroom was a cold, harsh place, but on that day, it felt like the stage of justice. There, Ethan and his mistress, Natalie, faced the music, their twisted plot laid bare for all to see. They tried to dodge the blame, hurling accusations at each other like desperate animals caught in a trap. But their words fell on deaf ears. The judge saw right through their lies, and the gavel came down hard. I sat there, watching them squirm, a mix of relief and disbelief churning inside me. My sister Marie squeezed my hand, her presence a silent pillar of strength. "Can you believe this, Laura?" she whispered, her voice a mix of disgust and satisfaction. "They're actually trying to outdo each other in being the worst." I nodded, my gaze fixed on Ethan. "Yeah, I can believe it. It's all they know, Marie. Lies, deceit, and now, finally, they're reaping what they sowed." The judge's voice cut through the tension, clear and resolute. "Ethan and Natalie, you have been found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. The evidence is overwhelming, and your actions, despicable. This court sentences you to serve your 3-year prison term, a fate you brought upon yourselves." But that wasn't all. The judge turned his gaze to me, and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Furthermore, the court orders Ethan to compensate Laura in the amount of $400,000 for the emotional and psychological damage inflicted upon her. Marie let out a low whistle, her eyes wide. "Did you hear that, Laura? $400,000. That's justice, right there." I nodded, a weight lifting off my shoulders. "It's more than justice, Marie. It's a new start, a chance to build something good from the ruins Ethan left behind." But justice had more in store. Natalie's wealthy parents, desperate to save face, coughed up half of the compensation themselves. Ethan had no choice but to give up the house, the walls that had witnessed so much pain now a symbol of my newfound freedom. As we left the courtroom, the reality of it all began to sink in. The nightmare was over. Ethan and Natalie were behind bars, their poisonous plot nothing but a bad memory. Marie wrapped an arm around me as we stepped into the light of a new day. "You did it, Laura. You stood up to him and you won. How does it feel?" I took a deep breath, the air tasting sweeter, the sky a deeper shade of blue. "It feels like a second chance, Marie. A chance to give this baby a good life, a peaceful home. A chance to heal, to grow, to live without fear." As the dust settled on the tumultuous storm that was my past, the world seemed to take on a softer hue. I sat on the porch of the house that once felt like a prison, but now was a sanctuary, a symbol of my newfound strength. Marie dropped by, her visits a constant in the ever-changing tapestry of my life. She plopped down beside me, her gaze taking in the horizon. "Look at you, Laura. Sitting here, queen of your castle. Who would have thought, huh?" Marie's voice was a mix of wonder and pride. I chuckled, the sound mingling with the gentle breeze. "Queen of the castle, huh? More like guardian of my own peace. It's been a ride, Marie. One I never want to take again." Marie nudged me, her smile easy and comforting. "But you made it, sis. Through all the darkness, the fear. You're here, you're strong, and you're free." I nodded, my heart a steady drum of quiet resolve. Free and ready. Ready to face whatever comes next. It's funny, you know. I used to think strength was about being unbreakable. But it's not that, is it? It's about being able to break and then put yourself back together, piece by piece. Marie's hand found mine, a silent vow of sisterhood. "That's the truth. You're the toughest person I know, Laura. Not because you didn't break, but because you did, and here you are, stronger and more badass than ever." The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It felt like nature's own way of applauding, of acknowledging the journey I'd been on. "You know what the best part is, Marie?" I said, my eyes reflecting the fiery sky. "The best part is knowing that I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing it for this little one too." My hand rested on my belly, the life within a constant reminder of hope, of future. Marie squeezed my hand, her voice soft but fierce. "That kid's got one hell of a mom. A warrior, a protector, a survivor. Ethan tried to write your story, but you grabbed that pen and wrote your own damn masterpiece. We sat there, two sisters, two warriors, watching the day give way to night. The darkness didn't scare me anymore. It was just a curtain, and behind it, the promise of a new day, a new chapter.